All steps for man. Science for mankind.
Let's go.
Good evening, everyone. And we're back with the UnFuckIt discussion. And we've all been sitting here chatting for at least 45 minutes anyways. Now I've gone through all sorts of topics. I want to throw something on the table, and I'm actually looking, and I'm like, Andrea is not here tonight because I wanted to give her the credit on this one. Andrea Gustafson, she threw a couple of links into the UnFuckers group about a week ago. And it kind of triggered me to go back and relook at some older stuff, look at some different things that I'd been researching heavily back in 2015, et cetera, et cetera. So I was like, ooh, there's something interesting in this. And it's funny how you get in older information you've already reviewed, but then as you build your own knowledge and your own background information to pull from, all of a sudden when you revisit something old, you go, oh, wait, there's something more here. There's way something more here. So I want to talk about CERN. Yeah, we're going back to CERN again. It was interesting. So I'm going to put a warning out here that I'm about to take a pile of theories, and any physicist who listens to this is probably going to pull all his hair out because I'm going to bastardize the shit out of these theories. But suck it up, Buttercup. I'm just doing my thing. I'm just putting my own descriptors, my own ideas on the table. So the article that Andrea put out first one was from 2013, and it was talking about, it was a very major science paper that came out in 2013. I remember reading the original study, that it was hypothesized that every black hole is a doorway or contains a parallel universe, another universe. And there was a lot of discussion at the time, and of course, my own physics understanding has grown radically since then, because it didn't, at the time, I was like, oh, that's really, really cool, that's really, really interesting. And we talked about wormholes and things like that, but never really got into it any deeper. And now I've done things like studied gravity's rainbow and all this kind of shit, and you kind of go, oh, wait, now I really comprehend this much better. The second article that she posted was about CERN in 2015, and it was an article from 2015 talking about what CERN was working on. And of course, it triggered me to go back and relook at a bunch of the stuff that I posted, news stories that I did back in 2015 at the time. And there was a lot of mainstream coverage. And I want to kind of go through just a couple of the pieces here, because it's all about, we always talk about words. What do the words mean, and how they use words to kind of switch things around on us. So I'm going to, bear with me a second. I've got to find out the first one. Okay, here's the first article. This is the 2015 one. Now I've lost Zoom. Okay, we'll screen share with you guys. Okay, so, and the article is about basically detection of mini black holes at the LHC could indicate parallel universes in extra dimensions. And it goes all into the physics, and I'll put all the links to this as usual with the archive article that will come with the recording. If many black holes are detected at the LHC, then it would arguably support several ideas: parallel universes, extra dimensions, string theory, and gravity's rainbow, with these last two having implications for a theory of quantum gravity. Not even going to go into the quantum gravity shit. Not even going to go there. What's interesting is that in 2015, the language got changed to talking about if they were to detect mini black holes in CERN at the LHC. Detect them, which kind of puts it off as in not like, kind of like, oh, they're just happening and we just happen to see them. You know, if we have them on the scanner, oh, look, there's a little mini black hole. Isn't that cool? Because they just detected them. Okay, now the interesting part is this. This is, okay, here we go. So this article is from around, I can't exactly date on this, but it's from around late 2011, early 2012. This is from CERN's own website. Okay. Microscopic black holes. Another way of revealing extra dimensions would be through the production of microscopic black holes. What exactly we would detect would depend on the number of extra dimensions, the mass of the black hole, the size of the dimensions, and energy at which the black hole occurs. If micro black holes do appear in the collisions created by the LHC, they would disintegrate rapidly in around 10 to the power of 27 seconds. They would decay into standard model or supersymmetry particles, creating events containing an exceptional number of tracks in our detectors, which we would very easily spot. Now, again, the language. The language here, they're talking about creating mini black holes, the production of it, okay? And it talks about, of course, the, it was very, hold on, talking about the power, the energy used, at what amount of energy used, the TeV, would then scale the black hole. That's their theory. So we know, because I went back and did heavy, and I actually ran into a Mandela effect, even just dealing with this. The end of 2012, in my reality, in the end of 2012, December, around the 20th, 21st of December, they ran their last experiment. The last set of beams were fired off at the LHC before they closed down for over 2 years. Now, I pulled up a thing on the CERN history. Let me see if I can actually, do I have that still up here? Crap, I think I closed that page. I have got the LHC schedule for this year. I had the LH schedule for 2012, 2013. Nope, apparently I closed that page down. Anyways, according to them, CERN ran until February 14th, 2013. Now, like I said, in 2013, 2014, 2015, I was heavily researching CERN. And I know for a fact, in my own little bubble of reality, that CERN was not operating in January and February of 2013. There's no fucking way it was. They closed it down, went on the long leave, and it started the last week of December. So that's a little additional piece I'm throwing into the table on this, okay? When I went through and revisited this information, I sat there and was like, okay, wait. We're talking about them creating mini black holes. And then we have the theory that came out in 2013 that every black hole, regardless of its size, contains a parallel universe, extra dimensions. And all of a sudden I sat back and I was like, okay, wait. Let's look at the date lines on this again. Hold on, and do stop share. There we go. Now, the weasel shutting it down was in 2015. That was in 2015 when they fired it up, and I was like, oh. Now, when they were firing off the beams in 2012, the highest power they got to was between 3 and 4 TeV per beam, which came up to a total of between 6 and 7 TeV total energy. When they reopened in 2015, They were doing 6 TeV on each beam with a total of 6.5, sorry, with a total of 13 TeV is what they were getting. Double. Okay, we're literally talking double the amount of power. And I went back and I said, okay, wait. What if? What if? What if what they did in December 2012 was that they fired it up and they did create a black hole, a little mini black hole. And we all got sucked into that parallel reality. What do black holes do? What's the big joke? What's the big joke? In our house, it's always, you know what sucks? And our first response is black holes, vacuum cleaners. What sucks? Black holes suck everything in around them. That's the theory. I'm just putting the theory on the table, guys. Not saying it's actually true. Theoretically, black holes suck in everything into themselves. They create a micro black hole, sucks us in, and we end up in a parallel reality that is just not quite, we're not in Kansas anymore. And it goes to full stop, and they're working on the bigger, more powerful, more energy. In 2015, April 4th, 2015, they fired up the Hadron Collider again. In April 10th, 2015, up until May 15th, they were crashing particles, and they did. Mini black holes were discovered at the LHC. It was all in the news. It was all over the news. The mainstream media was talking about black holes, and they've proven parallel universes, etc., etc. What happened in May, June of 2015? That's when the Mandela effect exploded into our reality, when people all of a sudden were like going, what the fuck is going on? Jump ahead again. They did a pile of experiments that happened in September, October, and they were crashing different ions. They were crashing lead ions. And it was a big news and big deal, and they reached maximum powers that they've never reached before. The last week of October into the first week of November, we had another massive amount of Mandela effect shit roll out. That is when the whole Lord's Prayer and the lion shall lay down with the lamb. That was when we discovered the whole change to the war in Iraq. Like, history is completely fucking changed now as to who participated in the war in Iraq. For those of us, some of us, not everyone, obviously. We're talking about Mandela effect shit here. And I sat there and was like, it just seems too easy. It seems too pat. I've touched on this subject, and then you get caught up in other things, and then you come back and you look at it again. You go, there are pieces to this. In 2012, Penny, yes, there was a news that there was a black hole by the sun, and then we never heard it again. Never heard it again. In August of 2014, we had news by NASA that the sun's magnetic poles had flipped. And it was officially announced by NASA. I double, triple, quadruple verified that they actually put out the announcement. And then we never heard another thing again. So we have all this crazy, crazy shit going on. Now, bear with me, because I'm going to have to stutter my way through this in the way of trying to get out of my brain what I'm going to want to try and say in somewhat lucid manner. When you update your computer or a software, let's use software as an example. When you update a piece of software, so for example, let's say you're using Word, you're using something like, for us, we have the website. So we use the WordPress website, and they update all the what number you're on. You never have to redo everything, right? All your shit that was in the previous level, layer, etc., when they put the new update in, everything you've got there drops into the next update. So it's not like you have to go through it again. And like so you have to re-enter all your information or whatever. It drops into the next update. And sometimes those updates go pretty smoothly. And then sometimes you get an update where obviously someone's fucked up something in the code. And things start going awry. And then they got to do patches and they got to fix it and they got to do, and everyone's like, what the fuck? My system's not working. What the hell? And you write letters and emails and you're like scream at the software company going, ah! And then they add another update to correct all the patches that they have to make and everything goes smooth again. It seems to me that I'm hypothesizing that what if each of these creations of even a mini black hole, as they call it, triggers the creation of another parallel universe, and we're sucked in. And as we get sucked in, it's like the next layer coming in, the next layer of updates. And sometimes things go smoothly, haha. Sometimes things don't go smoothly. And we notice the anomalies right away and go, dudes, why is the moon on the other side of the sky tonight when the moon rises over there? I've been looking at this for a long time. One of the other pieces that came to me this afternoon now, because we were just talking about it in the chat here earlier, someone asked the question about does anyone else have sore legs, etc. I have been in what feels to me to be gradually increasing amounts of pain for 2 years, 3 years. You start with one thing that's, like, oh, gee, I've got this little bit of a sore wrist, and then, next, then it's the wrist plus the shoulder, and then it's the shoulder plus the knee, and then it's the shoulder, the knee, and the ankle. And I sat here and was like, what if that's like the coding problems? Because everyone is now, for the most part, complaining about how much pain they feel, how much ridiculous, like, what would seem like it should be have been caused by injuries, and yet we have no injuries, no remembered injuries, especially, anyways. But like my shoulder has been done now for 1.5 years. There was no injury done to that shoulder, and yet I'm to the point now where my shoulder is completely toast. Carbon copies. And that's what came to me today. It was like carbon copies. You make a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and each copy gets more fucked up, a little hazier, get some weird shadows here and there. You start getting like really negative representations on the page. And I'm just sitting here going, okay, is this what we're looking at? Is it as basically as simple as, like I said, somebody just creating the fucking alternate universes, not realizing that each and every one is another carbon copy that we're dealing with? Yes, Ben. Is it a little cold where you are today?
Yeah. That's pretty cold. It's not as cold as it has been, but it's cold. So I want to interject a few things.
On you go.
Okay, so you're talking about CERN getting turned on and then it getting turned off. Okay.
That we're told.
Well, but something getting turned doesn't mean that the device isn't working. So with the devices that we use, when you turn it off, it increases exponentially in energy. Because you've set the field, you've tuned the field, and then you charge the field, and then the field reacts in accordance with what you're tuning it, right?
Okay.
So the energy actually increases when the power is taken off. Because it's kind of like radionics.
Yeah,
the idea with radionics is you're not putting any intention into it at all. In fact, the less intention you can put into it, the better. So you're just basically setting a field up and you're tuning it, and then you're walking away because you're being the creator. But first thing is that's the one that I wanted. So if they're doing something with CERN and they're turning it on to charge it, turning it off doesn't mean that what they're doing stops. So
Okay, so does the power stay at a level, or does the power increase like as a an exponential rate?
So then what you're dealing with is it depends on what you're doing. So when we charge water, for instance, the water being charged gives off certain energies.
Yeah.
Some of those energies you can light. So there's hydrogen.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's another one, and the hydrogen will explode and the other one will implode.
Okay.
Right. But once the device is off, the bangs get bigger from one of them and not the other, if that makes sense.
So
the hydrogen will be reacted, for instance, and then because the hydrogen is being reacted, it creates a field for this other energy to exist that you light. But that other energy then exponentially builds.
Increases.
The other thing is with pains, and it wasn't until you started talking about this and you mentioning your pains that there was that Russian article from 1997. And they are talking about, essentially, they don't necessarily say it, but what they're talking about is density.
That article is really fucking interesting. And hold on, I'm having a chair issue at the moment. I didn't get a chance to fully read it. I went through a couple of the sections of it. And again, I'll post the article with, someone remind me, I'll post the article with the archive. If you look at the wording, and again, the words used, there are multiple implications or translations, implied meanings that can be put behind them, especially when we see what we know now. It's like that came out in 1997, and we look at all the articles that have been coming out from NASA, from space.com, and all these kind of agency folks in the last 2 years, and they're all corroborating it now with their own twist.
Yeah, well, no, not necessarily with their own twists. It might be their own wording, but that's the thing is like it's not necessarily what they're saying, it's what they're getting at. So in that 1997 article, right, so I can't remember the solar minimum when it started, but it was around that kind of time, like the early to mid 90s. And what they're talking about is noticing that the heliosphere is becoming denser, and it has what do you, I don't even know if densified is a word, but it has gotten denser by 1,000 times, right? 1,000 times. That's massive. So you put it into the context, you got solar minimum, which is the sun decreasing. Now climate change will sit there and go, temperatures have increased by 30%. If you look at people who are studying the sun, they'll tell you that the sun has decreased by 30%. Yeah. So then we have a decrease of sun size, which we know cools the planet, not heats it, cools it. So you have a 30% increase of universal or galactic or fucking celestial space or celestial ocean fucking energy coming in,
particles, waves,
which is a 30%, which is a 30% increase of pressure. Celestial ocean pressure, which then is going to create motherfucking heat, because that's what fucking pressure does.
Yes.
Right? But it's not just pressure. Pressure equals density. So don't worry about gravity, because you've got density. You've just got density, right? Which then is going to impose more pressure on the body, and the body is going to adapt and do these things accordingly. It's kind of like the kind of, I guess, the far and deep woo of this side of it is were the giants because they were giants, or were they giants because of the atmosphere / environment they existed in? Right?
Yeah, and we've gone through that too. Exactly. We have bigger trees, bigger animals, bigger people. Was it because that it was a response to the atmosphere, and we got smaller, and the trees got smaller, and the animals got smaller because the density, if you will, changed in response to
an agreement that had been made.
Well, I don't know about an agreement that had been made.
I know about the agreement that was made, but then see, it starts. But you start, but when the broader we look. So, and that's the thing with like the European kind of space / astronomical / astrological studies, is they've been doing it for a long fucking time, and they've been much more open about it.
Yeah.
And I guess the theosophical side of science is much more integrated there. So when you start looking at it in those kinds of terms, it's kind of like, okay, so we've got this and this and this going on. So if they're turning on, like, and the other side of it too is you must remember, like, with CERN, every time they do something, it does change shit, whether it is magnetism, electricity, or pressure.
Yep.
So every time they do an experiment, it's never going to be the same. So if they're shooting hydrogen at fucking 6.5 trillion electric volts, the next time they do it, it's not going to do the same fucking thing, right? So then you chuck in Tesla and Eric Dollard, and the name escapes me, the dude who invented the TV set, right? The actual tube for it.
Oh, I know
what they discovered was that if you took out any metal influence and you were to charge that argon, and it was argon gas that was in these tubes, the argon atmosphere with the right charge, what they noticed is an electric galaxy would start forming. Stars, center, swirl, and everything. So you see where I'm sort of going with this. You've got extra particulate, you've got the increase of ozone, I would say, that is happening because of the electrical charge, because whether it's magnetic or electrical, the effects that those things have on water is an off gas, right? I know this, I've seen it, I lied it, it's funny. But what we're starting to see is the certain, it's a certain process. It's electrical, it's magnetic, and they're fucking with particulates in environments. Okay? And when you start looking at Tesla and Dollard and von Braun and even Schauberger and these guys, and what they were doing with these natural energies and elements, you start looking at what's going on a little bit differently. Now, blah, 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 blah. You keep talking about this copy being made.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily a copy, like a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy.
No, and I don't mean it that way. I was just trying to use it as a visual aid.
I'm gonna fucking totally back you up, but I'm gonna add to it. So what I believe is going on is when you look at some of Blavatsky's and Steiner and Theosophy and the Anthroposophy. Now I've been going through Dark Journalists X series and then fucking veering off on.
I have to go through it yet. Yeah.
And no, it's okay. Well, that's why I'm updating. So it's cool. There was talk of, and there was quite a lot of talk of this thing called the eighth sphere. Okay, and the eighth sphere was a digital copy of Earth that they were trying to create to then dupe mankind into going, that's better than natural. Right? So there's that.
Another construct to be like, oh, but the grass is greener over there.
Yeah, exactly. So what it almost is like is kind of like they're charging, and this is kind of going to go off on a tangent, but basically, you know, the Shroud of Turin,
Yep.
right? So there's been that theory that when a certain energy is given off, it can impose a what do you call it? An image.
An image. Yep.
So what I mean is they used to use certain cloths and they'd put an electrical charge through, let's say, a platelet or a sample of a leaf or a flower, and the energy would actually impose an image.
Yep.
So what if they're sitting there and putting a charge into something, it creates a reaction so that you've got like these algorithms, and then they're charging this eighth sphere, doing their sort of future trends and potential threats and their catastrophe management side of things to make sure that they can, without, let's say, going into all the wars and actually blowing shit up, they create the reactions, they charge it up, and then they...
Did you happen to watch the video we did Sunday after the movie?
No, but I know what Jupiter Ascending would do to this group.
No. We did. That was 2 weeks ago.
Tomorrowland, sorry.
We watched Tomorrowland. And the basic premise is charging using the antenna array in Tomorrowland. Hugh Laurie, whatever his name was in the actual movie, was putting the intent. He was charging all of the energy blasting through to our world, that the world was fucked. The world was coming to an end. Nuclear war, starvation, famine, pestilence. Throw some, throw a little, like I said, a little Armageddon in there for just a little bit of light laughter type shit.
Was there a character called Arma in it?
I don't remember. Was there a character called Amma in it? I don't think so. I don't remember though. But this is the thing, and that's what I said. They were exactly what you're saying. They created an antenna. They were sending it out. They were charging this reality so that the people in this reality would make that charge, would make that intent actually happen because they believed it was going to happen. Therefore, that's where the road they were going down.
So here you go. Want a real funny thing?
Yeah.
So we spoke, I think, a few weeks ago about Russ Ben and him talking about like the original Philadelphia project, and that being based on Rome, and Rome being based on da 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 da. What was Benjamin Franklin doing?
Flying a kite with a key on it.
But did he ever fly the kite? See, that was the thing.
No, that's one of the. It's a story. It's an urban legend. It didn't actually happen that way.
Yeah. So what was happening is they built a certain amount of churches. Now Rome's built in a circle, and they have steeples or charge points. So CERN is kind of essentially just this massive motherfucking distraction on something that they've been doing for millennia regardless, off of the natural elements. But you're going by the premise that it's only one they, right? Like that sets the premise that we're not talking about two separate groups here, maybe perhaps even duking it out for the power. One is using the circles and the circles. Remember last week, there is no they. It's an it.
Well, whatever, but you don't know if there aren't warring factions within.
Oh no, I know there's warring. I know there's warring factions. I know that. that.
But here we go. If you're running, and let's go back to the whole experiment analogy. If you're running an experiment, you're going to drop different things in to see what reactions you get. So you set up these circles in these churches, and you set up these. Well, and at first you set up the mounds. So like in the droughts now in England and Ireland, what are they discovering? Fucking, as all the grass is fucking dying off, they're seeing all the outlines of massive circles, massive rings. Okay, so let's say that was the first experiment. And then the second experiment was all these churches.
Oh, but that, yeah, no,
I see technology like CERN, like,
Yep.
and
Yep.
put them
I
all over
totally,
the world.
totally. But what I'm getting at is you're correct, but each one of those steps has been the distraction. So
Then
those
you're
are
losing me. I don't
so,
get what
so,
you mean by the distraction.
so those original mounds were the charge points, were the ceremony points. You didn't need a CERN. We did it. See, this is what Kara is sort of getting at, right? And every step, it's like, hey, look, here's this building. You need this, right?
Yeah.
You never needed it. So
But
where the
we
money's
did
been
it.
going, sorry, hey,
We did it.
yeah, exactly.
Not they, not it.
No,
whatever.
no.
So that's all I'm saying.
They, regardless of whether they're reptilian, are on this planet as entities, and they're part of us. I'm sitting there, I'm backing dollared up in this, and I'm saying there is an it in charge of one side, right? This comes back to this carbon versus silica type thing. And even Dollard states, he goes, it would seem that the actions being taken, that there is a war going on between silica and carbon.
Or between different life forms, two different
Yeah, but that, see,
whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, well, there's that. I mean, that's like saying there's antelope and tigers and lions and you know that side of things.
No, it's more like saying there's fucking grass and there's a lion. We're talking two very separate kind of things. Or some deep sea silica-based life form that lives off the lava flows where the water is 400 degrees Celsius versus a giraffe.
Well, I get what you're trying to say, but once again, I think that then comes down to perspective again. Because if everything's taking a part of a greater whatever, then malevolence and benevolence are the sort of push and pull of entropy.
Yeah, no, I mean, on much on a level, I completely agree with you. Why not? Right? Okay, your birds are being ridiculous in the background. It's very funny and it's very distracting. I just want you to know. They're being very pretty, but they're very distracting. So, getting back to no, you don't have to do that, Ben. Getting back to what I was saying, though. If you look at as each layer is another layer of experimentation. In how are they, it, whatever, is funneling the energy, funneling the charge, charging the planet, or even, I honestly think it's also removing the charge from the planet, right? Like it's like a two-way system, like pull the charge out, siphon it off to what they can use, and then feed in.
Well, copy it, like you say, copy.
Yep.
But see, every time an experiment's run, see, this is the trip, right? Everything's updated.
Yes.
Because it's kind of like what you're going through you and John are doing at the moment with your website and websites, right? Like, and that's what I'm getting at. It's like when you have someone come out and go, we zapped this fucking tube, and no shit, we saw galaxies, stars,
a la Men in Black, and the little marble on the cats.
You know, things take on a different perspective, because what we're talking about is the ability to manipulate and or interact. See, this is that whole thing. It's like, I just posted in the chat earlier, there's one of the dark journalist things. He's interviewing a guy called Dr. Joseph Farrell, and he's studied all this stuff.
I love Joseph Farrell. It's very funny.
But he talks about this fucking code. This code hidden in measurements and the ceremonies and the language, and this code for harmony and or disharmony. And this is coming out in these geological studies of these ancient sites and these measurements. They're like, oh my God, you know, there's this 18.6-year lunar cycle that everything used to get updated to, which is why they had everywhere they had solar, you know, observatories and lunar observatories just to make sure that this stuff stayed in check. And if you fell out, holy shit.
Okay, so, but here's the thing, and I think using the word code is perfect because it's a code. They found a code. They found a code that gave parameters of a certain aspect of the program. So like you said, this code that was like this 112.8 year lunar cycle. 118.6 year lunar cycle.
Just 18.6 was the lunar cycle.
18.6, that was it. Got it.
Yeah.
So that is a piece of the code. That is a piece of the code that runs the construct.
Right? What they're saying is this isn't a piece. See, this is the whole thing. There is one code. Everything else deviated out of that code.
Okay, and that's what I'm getting to.
Much the same as what's going on with the fucking blockchain at the moment. You had Bitcoin, and then every fork off of that is actually weaker because it's not the one.
Right.
Like
but it's all made, the code is the code, whether it's, you want to call it C++ or
Bitcoin is only
the blockchain
Bitcoin.
coding, which is C++, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
All I'm saying is the code is the code that it's written in, and within the code you have the pieces of the code. So like you say, like that one bit of the 118, I say I'm going to get it wrong again. 118.6 year lunar cycle is one piece. It's like one line of the code. And they go back and discover the code and you go, oh, wait a second. Oh, wait a second. Now we've got this one piece of code that helps us discern other pieces.
Well, and what I'm getting at is there is one code, and it's been diversified so much. So, like an example is the zodiacs, right? So is it 12 or is it 13? But hang on. See, the guys that I work with keep pissing themselves laughing, and they're like, it's not the zodiac. The zodiac is the marker for what's behind the zodiac, and it's what's behind the zodiac that's the fucking important piece. Not the action. The zodiac itself is just the marker of something else. So it gets really interesting because I mean Doppy's fuck CERN. See, you're right. It's a bit shit, but what I'm getting at is these ancient peoples, when it was peaceful, rather than building a church and they had tree circles and stone circles and they dug and or terraformed water channels and all the rest of it that actually do what CERN's doing, but not for the reason that they're doing CERN for.
Yeah. But I'm going to also throw another one on there. And this is kind of something that I've been really having to question myself every single time is, or so we're told. Because everything in history, even this ancient history and the ancient knowledges that are brought forward and all these things, it's still open to question as to whether or not that really existed or whether that's just part of the storyline.
Well, completely.
You know what I'm saying? Like I sat there. One of the kids was playing a video game the other day, Kale, and he's explaining to me what he's doing in the game, and I'm like, okay, well, why? Why this? And he's like, oh, well, because the game before the game, like the story is that this happened, and then I know, this place.
But that's why. Yeah. However, that is exactly why right now I'm sitting there going, okay, so these Russian fucking physicists have come out and said X, Y, Z. You've got Tesla and Dollard and Data going, we did this, and they were and have been and are being whitewashed,
Yeah.
like whitewashed, right? And yet we are constantly seeing new technology come out, blah, blah, which is based on their stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Their stuff, right? So when someone goes, I created this electrical force or tapped into this electrical force and created this universe, I go, in the beginning, there was the word, right? And the word, and God said, let there be light. It's like, oh, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then when you start doing with
the
other
micro
work with
and the
people
macro.
and they turn around and they say to you, so science told me that, you know, everything's made of carbon. So I put an electrical charge in water and showed them how I could disappear and reappear carbon in water. You go, the land came out of the water, right? Now we're all chasing this extraterrestrial or genetic making, you know, all these different stories. So you're right, we don't know, but what I'm seeing quite clearly, I mean, like I have a bit of a gifted existence with the people that I'm getting to know. But that's why I'm here talking to you, Mob, and going, so this shit can actually be done. And then when you have people like Robert Schoch going, hey, there's this guy studying plasma and these are the shapes that he's able to get out of an atmosphere vacuum with certain gases putting an electrical charge through it. And then you have autochthonous original races from around the world drawing glyphs of these creator gods that formed the mountains and the waterways and the canyons. I start going, well, hang on a second. Genesis then takes on a whole other thing. You take the God, the Elohim, the all out of it, and it's like spin or movement was in the beginning, and movement creates light when it reaches capacity, which then creates sound, and we see that evident in lightning, right? So then you start in there and you're like, so we know shit was tweaked. We know it was fucking, sideswiped and manipulated and all the rest of it. But it's like, hey, there's this actual process that is one process that whether it's, because you can sit there and go, it's natural, but then other people or entities can be like, oh, well, we can create this environment. Ergo, we can charge the atmosphere with enough O2 that when the sun discharges in a certain way, and if it doesn't discharge enough, we could help it, these plasma fields will happen. And we don't need Project Bluebeam because we can now control the weather. 9/11, taking God out of your magic, which is nature out of your magic. You see what I mean? It's like we can keep postulating.
I totally get when you and I have these conversations and they go fucking all over the place. And God knows you guys, you don't even hear the ones that we have by ourselves because seriously, this is tame. I keep coming back to there is a piece to all of this that we are missing. There is a piece to this that changes everything in our perception. And all the pieces that we're bringing out, and the stuff that you're talking about, etc., it feels like it is a piece here, and it's a piece here, and it's a piece here. But we don't have either the greater scope to be able to back up and see all the pieces yet, or at least be able to see how those pieces interact in actuality, if you will. And one of the things that has come up for me is this whole thing, and we've had this conversation several times over the last few years, is this use of like mirrors. And we talk about mirrors and how mirrors are a reflection, right? You see, but it's always maybe even using, instead of using saying, I used to talk about the carbon copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. It's a reflection of a reflection of a reflection. So when we look in, have you ever done that where you stand with a mirror behind you and a mirror in front of you and you have that and it goes on forever until the U's that are like, you know, 40 U's down the line are only, yay tall, and you can't see them anymore. Like they're it's, it's there, but it's there's no definition. You just know that it's the reflection.
I just want to throw this out there. So in radionics, you have the opportunity to wipe something out or create its equal and opposite vibration, which kind of nullifies it, which either zeroes it out or makes it leave.
Okay. I don't know enough about radionics.
That's kind of the concept. You're using frequency to do those things. What's a mirror? Is a mirror something that actually is going to equal out, given the right frequency, ergo light or angle of light, where you and your counter copy can equal each other out / utilize it to see, like...
Okay, so even going to the thing with light, right? Technically, and I'm going on by something that I'd read many fucking years ago. Technically, that's the whole thing that basically you should be able to shine a laser, using a laser as an example, as a light, that it could be able to bounce off the mirror, back off the mirror, back off the mirror, back. But sooner or later, the light dims. The light dims down. The light becomes less powerful, and it fades out. Where does the light go, though?
But so then what you're doing, though, is like, if you think about, remember that, I think it used to be called Pong?
Yeah.
Bonk. Yeah. So you've got one ball that goes that way, but depending on how it hits, depends how it deflects. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm getting at. So someone once told me that one of the things that they used to do is at sunrise is you can get a mirror at like the base of a waterfall on a 45-degree angle to capture that sun and point it into the mist coming from the waterfall, and you can open up portals and stuff, okay?
Yeah.
So if you're shooting it, it's doing the bing, 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 but it's still only got the thing that created that bing, 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 bing has got that one light source. So you would technically, to keep the energy there, you would still have to, you know what I mean? Because that energy that's come in has actually bounced off. It's not going doing. It's doing the Pong thing and going off that way. So if you were then to counter that to, let's say, put it back in, you might be able to then see, then you get that the three mirror thing or the pyramid thing with, but what we're staring at just quickly is things like magnets and mirrors and light and water are enough to do crazy shit.
And I'm not even doubting that. That's not even that isn't even a question as far as I'm concerned, because I've seen some of the shit. So what I'm getting to is the fact of when light is bounced between two mirrors, sooner or later, it does fade away. And that's what I'm talking about in that reflection of a reflection of a reflection of a reflection, right? As you look back at your reflections. So I'm going back to what I started off with about CERN, black holes, etc. And it's kind of like the end of the movie in Men in Black, right? Where you see the space pulls out, there's the planet Earth, and it pulls out so it's the galaxy, and it pulls out so it's the universe, and then the universe is just a little marble that some alien being is like playing marbles with on the ground, right? If you set off a black hole, they create a mini black hole, and that creates a mirrored image. And then within that mirrored image, which also contains CERN, they set off a black hole. They create a black hole, which then contains a mirrored image, which also contains a CERN. which creates another black hole that also contains another universe with another, and it's a mirror image of a mirror image. And I look at, we're talking right now. Well, no, Ben, no, just wait. You just wait. We're talking about right now about how everything's falling apart. Everything is falling apart. It feels we've put 1,000 analogies to it. The matrix is falling apart. The coding is coming out. Everything is falling apart. The energy is falling out of the system. We've talked about that financially. We've talked about that magically. We've talked about that on energetic levels. The energy is falling out of the system. Well, if it's a reflection of a reflection of a reflection of a reflection, is that what we're witnessing? Not so much loops, Penny, as reflections. We see it as a loop because we're inside it. We're inside it, and therefore we see it as a loop.
Well, not so much as a loop, but like you were saying earlier, like a shadow. And then I'm going to chuck in there to kind of maybe help stable out what you're saying a little bit. If they're creating black holes, and Nassim Harriman says that black holes are where birthplace of plasma, they're creating the energy, right?
Yeah.
Now, you're sitting there saying with mirrors, you know, so 2 mirrors, the light would deplete. 3 mirrors, you could start creating a focal point. 4 mirrors, you can start intensifying that focal point. The more mirrors that you put out.
Right. But that's only if
hang on.
That depends on the dimensional space that you're in.
But this is what I'm getting at. So what they're then finding is, oh, we have to put another mirror here. Oh, we have to put another mirror here because the shadow is starting to flicker and people are noticing it. And they're like, fuck, there's another one. We've got to put another. So we have this thing. And then remember what we dropped out, or what Tesla dropped out with what he's doing, and the car was just the beginning of? All the little fucking crystal discs that he wants to create a fucking, universal data storage.
Yep.
Many mirrors, enough mirrors to fill in all the spaces of light that are leaking out, so that the copy
becomes an inverted disco ball.
And exactly. And literally the only thing that's needed is the participants. So you create a choice, it's a mirror image, but then it's up to the participants as to which one actually gets the life. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the spirit, the breath, the essence.
The energy.
The intent.
Okay, now I want to drop something in here. And I want to drop something in here. This is a bomb. I'm just going to drop it right here in the middle. Everyone prepared? Okay. I was on Facebook tonight. Just decided to go through a little bit. And when I went to open my news feed, one of the first posts that came up was from Chris Geo. And he was put up a post, and of course, I've got no way of pulling it up now because I've already closed that. Guaranteed. Let me just take a quick look, but I guarantee it. I've already closed it. Shit. Okay. So, and he said, basically saying to everyone, I'm really, really sorry that, Sherry and I haven't been around. We haven't been doing calls. We haven't been doing videos. We've been on this journey, and he's talking about a continuation of the work that they did at the Great Pyramids. And I don't know if you guys have seen it. They did a bunch of energetic work, if you will, at the Great Pyramids just a month and a half or so ago. And there was some pretty heavy duty shit that they saw and experienced, etc. And they were talking about basically being able to connect from the 3D to this other D level of themselves without using drugs, without using the ayahuasca, without using, I think it was DMT, etc. And the thing that he said, and it caught my attention because I've actually seen this myself in 2013 and again in 2015, is that we are in the void. We're in the void, and no one knows we're here. Those on the outside, all they see is the void. They don't know that there's anything there, that there's anything going on within it.
Could the void be the choice?
In 2013, I was going through some heavy duty work with a group of people. And one of the things that I saw really, really clearly when you're climbing up the levels in the tower, as I used to always say, the tower, some people call it the halls of a mentee or whatever you want to call it, I see it as a tower, was going up to the very top. And everyone sitting up there in the very top was all laughing and having a grand old time and just relaxed and chill, and going up and getting in front of them and just losing my shit on these beings. Of like, you have no fucking idea what's going on down here. You don't have a fucking clue. Wake the fuck up and realize this is not a game. This is not fun. This is not, like, get off your fucking asses and do something. And in 2015, I had a very similar experience again where I saw basically the exact same thing play out. Now, and maybe you can even remember when that was, just a couple of months ago, I think, relatively recently. I had one of those flashes again, where I had one of those flashes where I was actually on the show, and I think I talked about it on one of the shows, where I was sitting here like I am now, talking to everyone, and I was fucking ranting, like seriously ranting, going off, losing my shit. And then the next thing I knew, I was in another place. I was in another place. I was in another, I don't know if it was another construct, if it was another level, if it was a spaceship, I don't know. And there were all these beings in front of me, and I knew it was the same fucking crew that I'd already yelled back in 2013 and 2015. And I was fucking telling them off. Stop this fucking bullshit. What the fuck? Enough is enough, the whole bit. And then I saw a copy, like myself, come out. And like I said, I'm pretty sure we talked about this in one of the shows. And I saw myself standing there. And she opened her mouth and tried to give me these platitudes. This whole kind of, oh, well, la, 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 la. And I hauled off and I punched myself in the mouth as hard as I fucking could. Like fucking decked her. It was like, don't you fucking dare. Don't you fucking dare give me this bullshit. I'm down here. I can see what the fuck's going on. You're up here having the cushy life, having a lovely time of it. Fuck off. And it was that same thing of like, they just didn't get it. They honestly did not get it because they were outside of this reality. And I sat there when I read Chris Geo's thing today and was like, interesting, because he said it's close. This, what he saw was like, and he didn't know if they were, and it was, thank you for Brianna saying, Chris says he couldn't tell if that reality is also within a construct, which is very, very interesting because I've hypothesized that as well. But the constructs are like this. They're like 100 feet apart. Like they're that fucking close. But this other one just doesn't even know that we're here. And I sat there and was like, coming back to mirrors. The reflection of the reflection of the reflection. And I go back to my original hypothesis. That in 2012, December 2012, something fucking happened. Now, is there a copy of us still back in that original, if you will, original, I'm using original as in at 2012, the day before it all happened? Is there a copy of us there going about our business, going about our daily lives, who has not a fucking clue about all the rest of this shit? Because they're separated out. What do they call that? What do they call that? About the something about separations, degrees of separation type thing. My next thing is if this is crumbling, the 6 degrees of separation. Fractals, yeah, okay. If this is all crumbling, are they all now all crumbling? As in, they all crumble together and they all become because it's not holding together. We all know that this is not fucking holding together. This thing is seriously falling fucking apart. Is there a point when the mirror cracks?
What if they've literally been mapping it all off of fucking Newtonian and Einsteinian fucking physics, and literally they've just
We're
gone,
fucked.
ow.
Oh,
Like,
we were wrong.
But like, and the reason I say that is like the elders that I'm speaking with down here, it's like that they'll go back to the Bible and they'll be like, Ben, they followed us around and wrote everything down to the 12 tribes and took all of our information.
Yeah.
And codified everything. So all the ancient ceremonies are in that book. All the how-tos are in that book, but all the how-nots are in that book. And the how-nots are disguised as you musts. Right? What it looks like to me is like, seriously, they have just, it has been making travel around and literally gather up all these pieces, because even within the ancient cultures themselves, all the pieces that they held were once kind of one knowledge base.
One knowledge base, exactly. And it didn't matter where you were, it was all one knowledge base. They all had the same knowledge.
Yeah, and like when you start going through history, like, you know, the ancient sort of history is there's the marauding lot chasing this other lot, and the first lot seems to be doing amazing things and existing for some time to do those amazing things, and then fucking off because the marauding lot find them again. And it's very much like I'm seeing in a lot of the archaeology and stuff, this talk of these, you know, this great existence of this great, I guess, for lack of better terminology, societal structure, which was very adept and knowledgeable in all things. And that, you know, I would almost say that, you know, perhaps 6 degrees off or even 1 degree off could fuck some shit up, and or some people turning up unaccounted for. Which would then mean
unaccounted for. I have a lot of people that like to not turn up and be unaccounted.
Yeah, which would then would mean that being a knowledgeable bunch, if they looked like they were sticking around, you'd have to start readjusting your survey answers, let's say, to account for.
Well, okay, and then you got to throw in, and I'm going to throw that on the table, is the bots, the NPCs, and that whole thing, because they don't have the same programming. Is that what I want to use? Perhaps. They don't have the same energy. They don't have the same intent. They don't have any intent per se.
Well, yeah. But if they do because they're
not creative intent. They do not have the creative intent. So there was one of the Unfuckers she put out an awesome little video today, or yesterday maybe, talking about NPCs. And she actually kind of explained a few things quite well, like really kind of simplified it down. And it's one of the things that comes in to me more and more is choice, like you said. And if we even go further, and we don't say not even choice, but we say consent. And even if it's implied consent, you've been tricked into consent, et cetera, et cetera. If less consent is given, and you still need X amount of beings to keep the construct running, you have to
to update, do the updates.
As you do the updates, you've got to add more bots. You've got to add more to fill it up, to fill it up, to fill it up. You've got to keep adding more. I mean, it doesn't matter. They've got this whole illusion of overpopulation. Well, the only way you're going to have an illusion of overpopulation is if you actually have population, right? So take that, all this, but what happens is when you fill the whole construct, full of
with
empty
copy.
copies of copies of copies of copies of copies of copies of copies
So
who have no creative intent, and even their programmed intent is now so diluted, because again, we're talking about a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. Everything falls apart, and it's
it's like
the mirror is shattering. Like
it's like in the book Secret Life of Plants, there's a chapter on where, what was it, the Natural Research Society or something like that was like, no, nature's like, it's like 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, and all these scientists went out into this like very, very biodiverse prairie and chased down like fucking birds and caught herbivores and all this shit just to grab the shit out of their mouths to figure out what they're eating, and then they were trying to code it. And they went back and tried to build this fucking computer. So every time they put in the codes and tried to run it, the computer would break. Like they
gonna
wouldn't.
have a
They
small
wouldn't.
distraction coming in at the moment. You'll just have to give me a moment. And dogs running everywhere. And no, the white one is not Groot shrunk down and bleached. That's Sam.
Classic. But yeah, the computer kept breaking. Like it wouldn't do readings, it would break. So they were never able to actually program even the data that they were collecting, that they were giving attributes to create code.
And that seems almost like a really good analogy for exactly what's going on right now.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, I love what you just said. Let's just go with even take out the fucking NPC clone fucking shit. Just go with like nullified fucking fucking zombified people, right? Materialistically fucking driven archetypes that the material is where it's at. That's the success rate. You live, you fuck, you die. That's kind of where we're at.
Hey Ben, another word I'd throw in, that void it. It's like kind of like voiding them out.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Making it's creating compliance, right? Naturally manufactured compliance.
I was gonna make a crude analogy, or like it's like when you're buying some things in a store or whatever, and the thing you thought was still on sale isn't, or supposedly on sale, because I figured it's all a scam anyways. They lower the prices on some things and raise the prices on others. It's a big scam. Sorry to deflate any balloons. I'm joking. But it's like the void. Like, if you decide you don't want something, then you void it out. Like on U-scans that they have here in the States, where you just do your own checkout, and that's a kind of, they use that as an example. Like, you just decide you don't want something. It's sort of like that like you said, talking about the ones who are like the NPCs, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
any of those labels, any of that type of labeling, or it's sort of like voiding it out. Like, you're sort of done with it anyways, because the emptiness. I'll even say the emptiness.
Yeah. Well, and to add to that, it's like, that's what I mean. It's like, fuck. It's like, let's create this fucking distraction called cloning. We don't need to do cloning because we set up an entire education system to make people compliant, right?
Yeah.
So you make people more compliant, they detach and da-da-da-da-da-da. Because what you're doing is you're trying to create a model. I'm going to say this, and this will be my title or label for it, a model citizen.
Yeah.
Like the schooling system, it's like the model is the 5-year-old girl. And then everyone is fucking modeled to the 5-year-old girl, but not any 5-year-old girl, the 5-year-old girl that just wants to sit there and fucking listen, like, and take it in and be, which is actually nobody. So it's like, that's what I was getting at with certainty, is like, hang on, that they build CERN as the distraction so that people didn't work out that the fucking church was the original fucking charging point, but the church was the distraction from the mound, and the mound was the distraction from the dude standing there playing the flute. You see what I mean? So it's like they're still standing there fucking playing the flute at fucking, you know, Bohemian Grove, and then they throw in their sacrifice and da-da-da-da-da, because that, once again, is the distraction kind of thing. But the dude, the single dude that's over there that's like in the wheelchair playing the flute is actually the dude that's conducting the whole fucking thing. That's where the fucking charge is coming from. And the whole rest of it is just the fucking distraction. It's like you create these beings that or try to create these beings that are just like fucking sitting in front of the TV for 6 to 12 hours a day, fucking on the dole, and then, you know, fucking nanny state fucking bot. But then that motherfucker gets bored and you didn't account for it. And then you think, oh, look, if we pump the societies full of fucking porn and, like, you know, the comfortability of a house
video games
and all that, then they'll just fuck and create more bots. But what's happened is the reverse, where everyone's like, you're a dick, I don't want to breed with you, why would I fucking breed? And they've gone, oh shit, it fucking changed again. And they're just literally, it's like they just it doesn't get it. It thinks that by inputting this, that, and the other control aspect, that there's not going to be a counter. You see, like, it's like you have this natural thing going on, and they're like, yeah, but we can control that. And then the natural thing's like, oh, I'll go down this path. And then it's like, fuck, this is boring. And they're not keeping up with it. So they're trying to program you with sugar, but then fucking THC eats that shit, and everyone's getting high now. So it's like, oh, snap. Oh, no, we can't control the sugar fucking factory. Oh, we'll do it with music. Oh, no, shit, motherfuckers are making music in their bedrooms and they're pumping it out like nobody's business. Oh, no. It's this ongoing, you know.
But that's because it's all artificial. And that's what I always keep coming back to. Every time they try to create,
well, the externalization of it. Right?
The externalization, the creation of another control structure. It's you know, it's like the pyramid scheme, but it's like an inverted pyramid scheme this way, where they've started here and they've built more and more and more and more and more and more and more. The problem is the one at the bottom is still crumbling and everything is all falling down. None of it ever works. And if it does work, I'm sorry, it's only working on the NPCs, on the bots, because that's what they were programmed to do anyway. Yeah, and that's exactly it, Penny. They don't build. They build, but they don't create. So which is why each one of those blocks that they try and throw in, like Ben is saying, and there's sugar, and we'll throw in music, and we'll throw in video games, and we'll throw in an education system, etc. It's just the rehashing of the same old thing, same old thing, same old thing. It's not creative, which is why I always talk about the fact they work within templates. They have the same templates. They just keep playing the same templates over and over and over again, which is why they're so fucking easy to see. Because it's always the same cookie cutter template. Exactly.
Well, I can't remember the exact quote my mate gave me the other day, and when he was talking to me. But essentially, it's like it's creating without the intent to end up with something. E.g., you've got these people that are inciting discussion for the sake of fucking inciting discussion.
Not for
they've got no intent of acting on or da-da-da. So
they just want to talk about it.
And what I see happening now, and we've spoken about this, Dee, is like is the way that certain people are acting, I guess. You know, we've talked about having people in our circles where we've just gone, whoa, well, where's this shit coming from? You know, like, and are we going to actually be able to get to an outcome from this, or is this something that's going to keep coming up and be harboring, you know, these cycles, these loops?
Yep.
And there's some of us who are like, Yeah, but hang on. Can we have this discussion while we're fucking outside doing something?
Actually doing
Or
something?
while we're doing something? Or like at least like, you know, where, yeah, there seems to be that thing going on where you've got people who are like, hang on, I'm fucking bored, let's do shit. And you've got other people who's like, hang on, I haven't finished talking.
Yeah. But we haven't come up with a plan yet. We haven't come up with a plan. And we haven't put it to the committee. And we've got to get, we've got to form a committee so we can all discuss it together. And then we got to, you know, define. Sorry, I'm now going on back to like I'm having flashbacks to Morocco.
You hit it on the head. But you hit it on the head because it's like, hang on, we have. It's like with what we're trying to do with our accelerated natural systems and our natural farming practices and stuff like that. It's like everyone's like, okay, so how about giving us a profit and loss sheet and a costings? And it's like, well, hang on, where? And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, well, do you want us in the desert? Do you want us in Antarctica? Do you want us in Siberia, New Zealand? It's like, because the variables there ain't going to be the same as anywhere else. So you've got people that want to sit around a fucking table and talk about how this thing is going to play out and not get anywhere.
And not get anywhere.
Because as soon as they get out there, it's like, oh shit, who brought the shovels? You know, where are the...
Oh, darling, seriously, you're giving me flashbacks to Morocco. Could you stop?
But see, it's these things where it's like, for me, like the biggest thing that's coming out right now is like, okay, is there benefit in this? Are we going anywhere with this? Or do I need to go do some stuff while thinking about what's just happened to process it?
Because I think that also is also very much perspective of each person. Because some people are going to find no benefit in it. And God knows there's days when I find no benefit in it. Do you know what I'm saying? Where you're just like, no, you know, I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to...
That's the exact thing. That's why that whole deep immersion sort of style of conducting debate or discussion is the best template I've heard about. Is topic on the table, and let's bring the info in on that topic, not how do you feel about the topic. It's like, hang on, info. That's why with the Dark Journalist series, that X series, I found it so amazing, because at the end of the day, it's like it's now correlating with all this geology and measurements and mound building. It's the guinea fowl. Shut up. Yeah, there's like we've talked about, there seems to be this ongoing process of chase, capture, manipulate, copy. But the thing is the process that you see, and there's only 3 of them, man. There's only 3 of them.
Seriously?
There's about to be 10. But guinea fowl are real shit parents.
They're really shit parents, and they're apparently party animals that really, really like to make a lot of noise.
No, it's 7:20 and they're normally fed by now. Shut up, it's Thursday.
I really don't know that they recognize Thursday, dude. I'm just going to say.
Oh, these ones?
Yeah.
Hey, Ben, you're so funny.
I'm trying out the Papple, template on animals, just to see if you know.
What 2x2s?
We have mass every Sunday.
Okay, I'm gonna have Eloise come up behind you and slap you in the back of the head.
I know.
He didn't hear you. He didn't hear you.
But yeah, it's this congruent template that seems to be playing out.
Hi, Ben.
And it's definitely starting to look like code, and it's definitely starting to look like I just can't get the thought that like even the space program, like they're like, oh, they're creating it for this money fucking, hole. It's like CERN. It's the same fucking thing. It's
Oh,
like it's just
okay.
this distraction. It's just this giant distraction. When in actuality, it's like the motherfuckers are still dancing on the old sacred spots.
Yeah. They'd like to have their breakfast now.
Yeah, Bam, you mentioned the old sacred spots, still dancing on the old sacred spots. It made me think of, it just triggered my own memory, like dancing on the old paradigm type of thing. Like, yeah, I'm
Pretending
like,
it still exists, you mean?
yeah.
So keep going. Okay, do you want, okay, I've got two stories I'm going to drop in here right now. These are two news stories. Both of them from this week. Both of them have left me going, oh my fucking God, can we get more transparent? So the first one is a very, very quiet thing that was just published off to the side. Mexico apparently put in a contract to buy some helicopters from the United States. And they've just said, yeah, no, we've decided we don't want those helicopters now. Now, that's not unusual. I mean, that kind of shit happens between countries a lot. What's unusual is the amount of money they were going to pay for said fucking helicopters. Because it worked out, they were only buying 8 helicopters, and each helicopter was $67 million more than an F-35 fighter jet, which is currently the most expensive warplane on the planet. So you sit there and go, wait. Okay, so Mexico made a contract with someone in the U.S. Department of Defense to pay, and it's like, I can't even tell you what the number was, but the number was like a ludicrous amount of money, to the tune of $67 million each, more than the cost of an F-35. There is no helicopter on the planet that's even remotely available at that price point. And I looked at it and I was like, it's fucking money laundering. It's a way to get money from one border, from one country to another country, and to bring it through, right? Yeah, the wall in interest. Okay, right? So it's a way of, when the central banks are fucked, when all the countries are fucked, they're all got so much debt, they've all got so much, financially, it's completely decimated, there's no energy left in the system. You've got to come up with an ingenious kind of ways to be able to trade purported so-called value, and doing it to cut out the central bank. Okay, story number 2, some South Korean company has just found a wreck of a Russian ship that was sunk during the Russian-Japanese War, which was around 1904 to 1906, I think, carrying, are you ready for this? 200 tons of gold. 200, this Russian warship had 200 tons of gold. And the explanation is, well, they think it was probably the treasury ship that was carrying all the money for the battalion, to be able to pay docking fees and to pay their navy and their officers. I'm like, right. 200 tons of gold is what they carried for docking fees in 1905? Obviously, the entire story's bullshit. Never mind that. What's going to happen with it? First of all, this story is a year old. It's only becoming made public now. It was found off the coast of a Korean island. They're going to take 10 million tons of the gold, and they're going to invest it into that island, into infrastructure for the island, which is a pretty much almost uninhabited island, but apparently it has lots of, tourism. Explain how that works. They're going to invest 10 million tons of the gold, or 10%, I guess it was, is the final amount, was going to be invested on that island and to build infrastructure, etc. And then and I didn't fucking open the article, I'm pissed, because the wording of the next sentence is really interesting. And it was basically that Russia has agreed to, basically, they will only take an equal share. Now, Nick and I had a huge discussion on what do they mean by equal share? Do they mean an equal share to the 10% that they're investing on that island? Or do they mean an equal share of whatever's left? And they contracted to say they will not ask for any more, even though the gold is Russian, but they're going to take the rest of it and it's going to be invested into North and South Korea and build a railway line between North and South Korea. So basically I said, holy shit, no. Drop the whole fucking story. The whole story is a chunk of shit. Again, central banks, you don't want to deal with them. You don't want to deal with all the politics, etc. So you just happen to find 200 tons of gold off the coast of right between North and South Korea. And now Russia is going to invest all that money of their gold. It's been fully admitted that it's Russian warship, it's their gold. They're only going to take that equal portion of it, and they're going to invest it all in North Korea and South Korea. Oh, is this how you basically make new trade arrangements and cut out the central banks? Cut out the IMF? Cut out the BIS? You just happen to find this gold just lying over there, and we're just going to, here, you guys take some of that. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And 2 years ago, it's 2.5 years ago now, Russia, China, and North Korea declared that they're going to build a free trade zone right in between the three countries. So are they going to use their equal portion of that gold that was just found off the coast to build that free trade zone? And again, like I said, bypassing all the central banks, bypassing the IMF, bypassing all the trade agreements, international treaties, and everything else? Is that what they just did? Because that's what I think they just did. So you talk about them as like there's no energy left in the system. And we're seeing examples of that over and over and over again, where it's like you got to bypass the system and come up with some new ingenious way to try and do your international trade negotiations, like buying really, 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 really expensive helicopters and finding gold bullion ships off the coast of the country that you just happen to want to do trade with. Like, seriously. And that was just 2 articles that was today, just from today that came up. Yeah, bullshit, exactly, Chris. Bullshit detector overload. Exactly. It's a laundering story to feed the people. Exactly, Penny. But it's happening. And like I said, both stories have a commonality in that it cuts out the central bank, yeah, exactly, the central banks, and it cuts through all the treaties, all the IMF stuff, all the BIS shit, etc. It cuts through all of that stuff and just works from behind the scenes, so to speak.
Well, there's that side of it, but then if they're also doing trades in gold, they're completely stepping out of it because the fiat's not backed by it, right? So
and Russia just got rid of the very last of their U.S. Treasury bonds this week.
So, you know, to add to like some of David's stuff that he's been putting out, it's like, are we starting to see the gold currency thing kind of kicking in, and you know, with this whole IRS and Treasury thing and yada 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 yada. You know, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's like the thing that I keep on cracking up about is like Trump, as Trumpy as he is, it's like the motherfucker has got to know some shit, like with who his uncle was and
purportedly,
and his past acquaintances with ex-presidents and stuff like that. It's like, unless he is a real dumb cunt, then, excuse my French and use of gods in that man's presence, but you know, the potential, it's like, I just crack up. It's like him snobbing the Queen. It's like everyone's like, oh no, I was like, woohoo, walk behind me, little lady.
Don't get started. Don't even get me started.
But no, but like D, like for decades, right? And everyone can sit there and go, he's he's just an asshole, and he's this, that, the other. It's like, depending on how you look at it, it's like it's a new paradigm coming through. You have a president that's that's tweeting shit left, right, and center.
Yep.
He's made every major player wait, bar maybe Putin, and he broke every ceremonial protocol with the Queen. It's like, it's hilarious. So you're definitely seeing stuff falter. And not necessarily
fall into pieces on every level.
According to plan. But on the other side, you're also seeing this very ever-present, I don't know, I think of it as disclosure. And they're doing it through science, but if you then take the science out of it and look, put the sort of natural aspects back into it, there's some pretty cool shit going on. Not the bad stuff. There's other cool shit going on, right?
I agree. Guys, I'm going to have to call the show early. Like I said, I have to be up and I have to be on a ferry at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I have to go make sure that a young lady has her suitcases all packed now before we even go to bed. So I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. Sorry, guys, and I won't be able to hang around for the after show chat. So Ben's going to have to go feed his hens before they get really belligerent. So, Star, I can make you host if you guys want to keep on chatting. Sunday night, the movie is going to be Annihilation, which is the new one from 2018 with Natalie Portman. There's some interesting pieces in that movie, even by the way that they're trying to twist a narrative to turn it into something that you should be scared of or terrified of. It's really interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah, that is everything for tonight, and I will get the video with all the links, etc. here uploaded as soon as I can. It'll probably be late tomorrow. It'll probably be tomorrow night before I get this all out.
Enjoy the ferry ride.
Oh, hopefully I'll just pass out and go to sleep on the ferry. I usually do. It's like so soothing, just on the water. Just gonna fall asleep. Okay, so I'm going to make Star Walker. I'm going to make you. Wait. What are we doing? Hold on. More. Oh, I can't make you host for some reason. Oh, because John's host, so John has to do it.
John's host was going on in the brain, and I was like, yeah, she'll get it. She'll figure it out, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
See you later.
Good night, everyone. I will talk to you all later. Bye.
Good night, Dave. We love you.
And one small step for man.